There's been a request by a few students to review the second question from last week. Is that right? Okay. So I'm going to open that one up, or at least what I've done up to this point. So that was this one. Does that look right? All right, and this is where, kind of like where I left it. So right here, I need a big, like, chair. Oh. I don't stand up in the front. What? Oh yeah. No, it's fine. Legs after a while. Okay, so this right here is a loop, right? Yes, and it's looping through. By the way. All right, it's looping through the city list. That's right. Each time through the loop, what we want to do is find the location of the city and figure out what the distance was to the previous city. So it's actually a similar problem to where we looped through and found the distance back to the last XY or latitude and longitude point, right? Same basic thing that we're doing. Okay? So that old one. See, this is that old loop, and I came in here and told you, well, you just kind of have to squish these two together. Remember? I said that? Okay? So to squish those two together is we don't need this while statement anymore because this is the loop. So we don't need that. We also don't need the XY because we're calculating XY up here, so we don't need that even. We ask the user for the XY. So we need to delete that. What about this here? This has been a big question. I mean, I've been answering questions by email about this. This stuff right here. Where do you think this needs to go? Because this is, first of all, if I run this code as is, it's gonna do this as a loop, and it's gonna think this is not a loop, so it's gonna break out of the loop. But we want all the rest of the stuff that's down here in the loop. So what do we need to do with this stuff? Because it needs to be outside the loop. We need to move it outside the loop because this is all stuff that's setting up the initial parameter. So let's cut that out. Oops, deleted Y there, and put that back up here. Okay. Finally, we need to. Well, not finally. There's a couple other things we do. Keep going. That's not even something we need to do anymore because keep going isn't something that the user will even worry about. So let's just change that. We don't even need to if they're going to continue. All right. And that's it. So most of what I did was rearrange code. And now this should work. So somewhere in here I ask it to continue. So we're not asking them to continue. We're just going to continue. We don't even need to do this part. And now let's just print the total distance outside the loop. Oh, another thing. Is that the error that you're getting? Are you getting this error? Yeah. Okay. So that's actually not fault. That is, I thought I fixed it after class, and I thought everybody would, but maybe everybody copied it beforehand. So basically, unless you have a key here, I have a key, it limits to like 5 requests. It's a really ridiculous number. So, yeah, sorry. So you have to copy and paste that line in there, and now it'll work. Of course, you are limited to that like 2,000 or 3,000 requests that I talked about before. I'm gonna clean it up just a little bit so that it's still a right statement. Yeah. So if you have works that asks for the latitude and longitude and then prints it out, the code is basically the exact same. For instead of looping through using a while statement, instead of looping through until you're actually looping through a list. It's actually simple code to it actually doesn't, it doesn't take as many because we're not worried about if they said yes or no or anything like that. You still need to do the time thing because the first time there's no zero. There's no beginning point, so you still need to calculate that the previous x is just equal to x. Well, let me open up. Let me open up week 2. Oops. Which one was it, 2 or 3 from week 2? 3? Yep, it was 3. Week 3. See this loop right here? That loop while keep going. Another way to say this, or another way to think about this, is to actually just modify, and instead of doing this, you could go back to code and paste this into your week 2 here, so that now you're looping through the cities. You're still going to have to delete the code that you don't need out. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So that's up here. Basically, this is the only line you need to replace. It just needs to have this second variable called key. Okay. So, what is this? 468. That's where I should have put it. I thought I did, but I guess I didn't. Sorry. Anyway, I'm just gonna do this. All right, so I printed that big old thing right here. That's one of the lines. See all that mumbo jumbo? And look, I'm printing that and it's results 0. So and then this is a list. See, that's a list. So I said I want the first result. Sometimes, if, like, let's just say you typed in, I don't know, sometimes it's in more than one place that Google could return. I don't know if you've ever typed in, Google returns 2 points, but it does happen. So, applications, it can return a result that has more than one. Saying I want the first result, because usually it's the best one. And so here, now that we know about dictionary, so the result of this was a dictionary where I said, give me the result, I want the first result, and then I want, in the I call geometry, I want the item called location, and I want the longitude of that. And then I also want the same thing, but I want the latitude. It's off the side of the page. So that was just a dictionary of dictionaries. Results, I got the geometry and the location is inside. Where's location? There's location, and then the latitude and the. So that's how I got those values out of that function. But yeah, good question. Sorry for the mix-up there. You need to have that, otherwise it won't run. And by the way, that's my key. So those 2,000 requests or 3,000 requests are for everybody using that key. So if you use my key, then it's 2,000. It's 2,000 requests. So if we all used it a lot, we could still get that same error before. So if you see that error, specifically that error that says something X out of range, that error is saying that we used the Maps API. You could get your Maps API key. Google Maps API. You do have to have a Google account, and since I'm logged in as me already. Oh, I'm logged in. So this is where I get it. I think that it's just going to give me the same one. But if you hit get a key project and get an API key there and then you'd have 2,000, for example. So if you wanted to write your own application, that is the same key, I think. AIZA. Yep, that's the same key. So if you wanted to get a key, you could get one there too. And you'll so you'll have your own 6,000 or 2,000. I think it's 3,000. It's 2,000 or 3,000 requests. But basically, they want to charge you if you're like a commercial and you're like geocoding tons of addresses a day. All right. Okay, so for a second, we did do this last week. Let's talk for a second. Create that list of distances. Question. Okay. What I meant for you to do there was going through this CDist is going to be the distance from Hattiesburg to Calgary or from Calgary to wherever. You need to create a list of all those distances. And we've done that again today, where you say CDist my list of distances. My list of distances dot each time through. And then you can feed that into the for the standard deviation and the mean values, and just report that. All right? Okay. Go back to week 4 here. Let's look at there it is. Okay, there are a few other topics we didn't discuss that that maybe we'll get to later, because we're going to keep doing things with directories. But you can go look if you want to go ahead and look through the book. But there's a whole module called the OS module to handle the operating system. You can use it to check to see if a certain file even exists. So sometimes that's helpful. The walk function allows you to access every file in a directory. Okay. Talked about random numbers. We already talked about the try statement. The converse of the try statement is the raise statement. Raise statement cause an error. Not quite as useful, but it actually allows you to create an error in your code so that it'll get that red text. All right. So let's talk about the assignments today. Okay. Oh, yeah, being recorded. So, by the way, for the other class, it now. Like I asked her to cross-list it with, so you should see it. Okay, I'll go look for that. I'll try to do that. Yep, I'll do that. Right. Okay. All right, so today we're going to write a function, and with each of these, like I said, we're going to write a function, we're going to test that function. So the first one is, it's going to take a path to a text file, the only input parameter, and it's going to read the lines of that text file, list, or tuple. One line is one item, and then it's going to return the list or tuple. We've already done something very similar, but actually more complicated than that. So what I'm telling you to do is to read it by line, and each line becomes one item in the list. Okay? So we could actually do that pretty quick. I think that's most similar to example, was it 4? Yeah, so this is going to read it line, right? But this splits it. I'm not even asking you to split. All I'm asking you to do is to create a new list of each line as a new item in a list. So how do you do that? List, first of all. What if I want to create the new list and then add the item? Where would I put it? Would I put it inside the loop or outside the loop? Yep, before or after the loop. Yep. Okay, so these are going to be the file lines. And it's going to be a new list, not a dictionary. And we're not even going to split. I think it would be nice to still strip it. So we'll go file lines, and how do I get that line dot strip into the file? What's the way to do that? I'm just reading. That's all I'm going to do in this one. Just going to read. So this is a list, and I want to get this inside the list. Dot. Yep. How do I get that inside the list? This is just a string. Yeah. Exactly. So now, this is going to be a list, and we're building a list of every line, every item in the list will be one line in the list file. So if we print file lines at the end, then now we will have a list each line in the file. Now you're going to have the same problem with the pathway. You see how this is the first line in the file, it's the first item. This is the second item in the file, the second item in the list. This is the third line, and so on. Okay? So the directions, though, said that you had to make this into a function, takes a path, and returns the list. Right? That's what the directions said. Function takes a path, reads the lines into a list or tuple, and then returns the list or tuple. So we have to change it to a function that takes a path. So let's go over that. So how would I do that? How can I do a function? I have a def, the name of some function, and then parentheses, and then somewhere else it needs to have a return statement. So it's really easy. Like, basically, I could change this print statement to return statement, and then I could put a def statement up there, and everything like this. All right. So that's done. That's what was expected, was that list. So now you have a list that's in a file. To test it, we could go like this. And we need to feed it the path. So this would be file data equals, and then we could just print file. What this does is calls this function and turns the data into this variable called file data. When we run this function, we'll get the what will this be when I print it? What variable will it be? What type of data will file data be? What type? Oops, I forgot to change that to a return. Right? There we go. It's going to return file lines. Whatever is returned gets fed into here. That's how that works. So this is just going to be our list. See that? All right, let's do something that we have. We haven't done this yet, right? Have you seen this? You do this in other programming languages. There is I've created a second parameter that's going to go here, and what this does is provide a default value. The user doesn't actually have to put anything in there. If they don't put anything in there, the value of has header is going to be true. If they do put there, then the value of has header will be what they put in. So what I want to do is modify my code so that if it has a header, then I don't want to have the entire list. I don't want the first item in the list. So how could I do that? That would be like a slice operation, right? Like I could do something if has header. By the way, if it's a Boolean, you don't have to say is equals true. It's just either true or false. So I could say if has header, then file lines. How can I get just the equals file lines? Will this work? I think that'll work. No, wait. I just go from 1 over. 1 over. So I'm just going to get 1 over. Let's see if that. Yeah, -1 will go the other direction. Yeah. The very last one, and that worked. Anchorage, Alaska. Now I'm basically removing the rather than just not adding it. Okay. Now, what if I change this to false? What do you think should happen? Well, first of all, it's not going to get to the statements. What's going to happen? File lines is going to be what it was before. See how once with has header true, once with has header false. So I got the first line. First line's not. So that's what this is all about. Now that's not technically part of what you had to do, but if you do that, it'll make the second one easier. So really, we finished. Oh, crud. I wrote over example 4. Should have saved it. Okay. Let's see how many undos I have. You don't have to do this. Oh, cool. I got enough. Save. File. Save. All right. Now, I'm just curious. Oh yeah. The last time example was more complicated because we learned classes and objects, which we're going to talk about next week. So I was just looking at 2018. Basically, I spread the 2 weeks over. Not that's complicated. All right, so this is all of 4.1. It's actually complete. That one's done. Let's look at 4.2. Write a function that takes a list of cities and returns a dictionary where these are the city names and the values are the locations as objects. You will then reuse the last week that finds the location of a city. Oh, that's okay. Sorry. I thought I proofread this enough, but this is what we're going to do because we didn't talk about objects yet. I thought I corrected this. I haven't uploaded yet. These points are just going to be the values of the locations is point dictionary. Y or lat long, I don't care which one you want to do. But the points need to be an X and a Y value, okay? Let me change that real quick. So this will be up when I do change it, because this is what I meant to as okay. There we go. And then this will be a dictionary of points. Same as what we said here. All right, so let's demonstrate. This will be up there next time it loads. Okay, so basically we're going to have a dictionary of keys themselves are going to be dictionaries. So we'll have a bunch of city names that are keys, and the values will be these locations. So an X and a Y value. I'm just going to type, make it make a little bit more sense. So here, not right there. So like this, if I had it, and I had a city name like Hattiesburg, and then I had that's the key, and the value, another dictionary where X is equal to 82. And oops. And Y is equal to 3, whatever, 20, 33. I don't know exactly what the number is. But you see how that is a dictionary. The value that's in this dictionary is this dictionary. It's just got a dictionary. I could call it locations. And if I ask for the location, sorry, that should be Hattiesburg. And then the value of X. This is a nested value. So I'm saying the Hattiesburg and then the X inside of Hattiesburg, that's 82. So we're going to need this function right to do this. Okay. What we need to do is write a function that takes a list of cities and then it's going to return a dictionary. So let's, I'm just going to start off with this location.pop as example 2 from wrong week. From 4 to 18, example 2. So I'm going to my new function called find city locations, and it's going to test. I'll just call the list. And then what's it going to return? It's going to return a dictionary of cities dict. So on our find city locations, it's going to take a list of cities, and it's going to build a dictionary. We built a dictionary before, so we need to first create an dictionary, and then we need to add the locations in as by calling this function. You call this function that has the key, the same error. So we got to create a city's. How do we create a city's dict? How do we create that? Equals what? Yep. Another way to do it is this. That but let's just say, let's just do it as the squiggly brackets. Okay. So all we need to do logically is go through each of. So how do we loop through each of the cities? This is going to be a list of cities. Same code that we wrote last week. I was thinking about something that I did as an undergraduate. When I was sitting next to somebody and my computer, when you unplugged it, I was like, are you unplugging somebody's computer?
I was making sure it didn't miss.
My computer blue screen and all the towers, all those towers, they're all like this. So I turned off the computer next to me, but it was actually the guy to my right, and he was working on something. He was like, flipped his computer off. Looked at me really weird. I was hoping you weren't doing the same thing there. All right. So, cities is going to be a list. How do we go through each item? This is very similar to what we did with the question that we were just asking about last week. This one right here. So how did we go through each item? We did this. Okay, we called it city list that time. That's just what's the label we gave it. This time I called it cities. So if we store city in cities, that's the same. So we're going to go through each city. Okay. We want to create an item in the city's dict with the city. Do that. That is very similar to what we did with the histogram. Yeah. Key, where do we put the key? What's this going to do, by the way? Right, it's going to give city's dict with variable. So each time through, every time the city changes, we'll get a new key in our dictionary. If there's any repeats in the file, it's going to write over it, by the way. That's not a problem. Okay, city's dict city is equal to 0. That's though. We want this to equal the x values, right? Okay. Well, let's just pull x and y out here. No, that's not point to dist. Did we ever call that? We didn't actually call this function. Yeah, we called this get address location. So what we're going to do is say x comma y equals this. What do we feed in for the address? Remember I told you thing, even there's just the name of a city. So we're going to feed it the. So now, what are x and y after this runs? They are. They're going to be the coordinates. So how could we create a new dictionary here that would be that would store the values that we want stored in there? Because we want it to be this x Yeah, and then that's what I'm doing right here, right? Isn't this making a new key? And I want to store X in there, and then I want to Y, and I want to store Y in there. And you may be what's the difference between this and that and this and that? Right? What is the difference?
The key is assigning it.
That's the key, right? What kind of data? Yeah, it's one character, so that's a string. What kind of data type is this, X and Y? It's going to be whatever the result of this is, which I forgot whether it returns floats or it's going to be a value from this return. Okay? All right. So this should work. See if it works. That's printing because of what print statement? You see any print statements anywhere? Oh, print. Need this. Yes. But we know there's no syntax error. We need cities. We need a list of cities to test with. And we need to find out what the return value is. So that's something that I'll get a list of to test with, and then test the function by calling it and print the return value. Okay. So what you should get is a dictionary where you have a bunch of keys that are the cities, and the cities, the values are these values with the values actually printed. Store X and Y in there. Right? So it's like 90% done. That one's pretty close. So let's look at so we ended up doing all of one, 90% of two. Let's look at the write a function that takes a dictionary. This is going to be a dictionary of, this is going to be the output for number 2 above. It's not a dictionary of point objects, it's just a dictionary. And a file location and writes the values to a text that has the data in rows and the name of the city all value. So basically what you want it to do is look this file right here. No, not that one. Is it test.txt? Yeah, that's it. Look kind of like this. So we use the cities that we had. You want it to read this line and you want it to get the X and the Y data and store it in the file. Okay? So let's save this as 3. So instead of getting your list of cities to test with here, you're going to get a list of cities from a, and by the way, the first time I taught this, 3 years ago, 2000, I said, use this one right here, and it's so big, it's like 3,000 cities. Don't use that. First of all, we'll all run out really fast. Okay, get the from a file, and then you could you actually I mean, this builds on it, but doesn't totally. Technically, you don't have to, create the dictionary within the dictionary, but you could. You could run this function and then finally run the dictionary to a file by iterating, what's this? Loop through all the keys. So you could say for cities or for K dict, and then you could print the name and you could print the X and the Y value. All right. So you have to open up in here, you'll have to open up a file, and then you'll have to write line by line into the file. If you wanted to, you could sort the keys, wrote them so that the cities would be listed in alphabetical order. That might be kind of cool, but it's not required. Okay. So the final output should be a file with lines that look like this. City, lawn, and so each line should have that information. By the way, this is actually Y for some people that don't forget this, and this is actually X. The opposite way, I don't care, but that should be the final output. I'm going to put a comment in front of this. Now, some people ask me, because we did that other example where we split the line up, some people ask me, do I need to set lines up? Here you don't actually. Google better if you leave it all together and feed it the whole thing. So when you read the line by line, just put this whole thing in there. Anchorage, Alaska, States. If you split it up and just fed it the city name, cities in different states that are named the same thing. Why can't I think of something off the top of my head? But there are, Madison, from Columbia. I always tell people that I moved to Columbia, and they're like, what are you doing in Columbia? Well, I went to school in Columbia. I got my graduate degree. But I mean Columbia, South Carolina, and even South Carolina getting a graduate degree is ambiguous, right? Because of Mizzou. So, in any case, Anchorage, Alaska, United States, feed it the whole thing. So you don't need to worry about. I would still strip it. So you're gonna. You've got this function here, and a list of cities from a file to feed into there. I'm going to build that list by reading the file line by line. Really, you could do that. That's actually why I wrote the first one. So you've already done that. There it is. See? So this function right here takes a list, it takes a file and returns a list of cities. It's all ready for that list of cities to be fed into the. That's why we did this. So now we have this list. This function will create a dictionary of their XY locations, and then that's what you should write out to the. And we were going to talk about modules next week, but
When we turn in scripts,
Yeah.
do we need to zip that with the file?
No, because I'm telling, well, maybe it depends on whether or not you use a special file, like if, but in this case, I told you to use this file, so I already have it.
Oh, I see.
Put it, I can, it would be best if you kept it in the directory so that the path, so I could just move the file into the same directory. In other words, you don't need the full path. Yes, if you want to, just zip the same directory. That's fine. Okay. Here, let me see if this. I don't know if yeah. Okay, never mind. We'll talk about that. I thought I was going to get fancy, but it doesn't allow underscores in module names. So for now, you just have to copy this code into this code, or vice versa. To reference a function in another file. You just have to name the file the right thing. You can't name it something with. So you're going to hit a file. That's this function. You could actually do this right here. All right. Control C. I like to put all my functions at the top and the code at the bottom. So I'm going to put this down at the put this. And I'm going to run this. And you notice that I've got each of these is already there. So all I need to do is call this with this data. So now this will be all ready. Now I have a dictionary now where each item is the name of the city and then the X and the Y value. Remember, it's not to, it'll store it however it wants to. Okay, so it's being stored first. It's okay because that's the latitude and the longitude. The latitude and longitude values of all of the variables. I'll leave it there. And so what you need to do is take this dictionary and write the dictionary out to a file. So you need to be able to reference the items in the dictionary. So the name of the dictionary, you don't even have a dictionary yet, you just printed it. Assign it to a value, like my output dictionary, and then loop through all the keys and get the values that you need out of those keys. And save them into a file. Be done with that lab. So you need to finish 2. It's almost done, and you need to finish 3. Probably about. Well, if you talk about code used, you still have about half of the work to do because you still have to write it out to a file. All right. Okay. I'm going to stop the video and I can answer questions as you're working through it, and